Nurses, what's the calmest patient you've had with the most life-threatening condition? I've been a cardiac nurse for 11 years now, and this question immediately brings me back to a night shift about 3 years ago. It was one of those February nights where the cold seemed to seep through the hospital walls, and we were already running short-staffed because of a flu going around. A man came in, mid-60s, named Desmond. He walked himself through the emergency department doors complaining of what he called a bit of chest tightness. His wife Francine was trailing behind him, visibly more distressed than he was, clutching her purse like it might fly away. His EKG showed a massive STEMI. For those unfamiliar, that's essentially the worst kind of heart attack you can have. The kind where time is measured in minutes, not hours. The kind where we're already paging the cath lab before the printout finishes rolling. His left anterior descending artery was almost completely blocked. We call that the Widowmaker for a reason, but Desmond just sat there on the gurney, hands folded in his lap, watching us work around him like he was observing a mildly interesting documentary about birds. When the attending rushed in and explained the severity of his situation, laying out the risks and the urgency, Desmond nodded thoughtfully and asked if someone could please make sure his wife had a comfortable chair to sit in while she waited. He said she had a bad hip and didn't do well standing for long periods. I've seen a lot of reactions to bad news in this job. I've seen screaming, I've seen bargaining, I've seen complete shutdown where people retreat into themselves entirely. But I've rarely seen someone whose primary concern, in the face of potentially dying within the hour, was the comfort of the person in the waiting room. While we prepped him for the cath lab, started his heparin drip, and ran through our checklist, Desmond asked me about my night. Not in a deflecting way, not like he was trying to distract himself, but with genuine curiosity. He wanted to know if I'd had dinner yet, if the shift had been particularly busy. I told him it was picking up considerably, and he apologized for adding to my workload. I almost laughed out loud. Francine later told me he'd been a high school biology teacher for 38 years, taught thousands of kids about the human heart, explained its chambers and valves and electrical systems more times than he could count. Maybe that's why he understood what was happening inside his own chest with such quiet clarity. He knew the mechanism, understood the stakes, and somehow that knowledge brought him peace instead of terror. The intervention was successful. 3 stents opened up his artery like clearing a clogged drain. He spent 4 days recovering on our floor, and every single morning he thanked each nurse by name. He remembered details we'd mentioned in passing. He asked one of my colleagues, Ruth Ann, about her daughter's soccer tournament. He remembered that I was saving for a trip to visit my grandmother in Puerto Rico. Asked me about the beaches there. On his discharge day, he shook my hand with both of his and said something I still think about regularly. He told me that panic doesn't add minutes to your life. It just subtracts joy from the ones you have. He said he'd learned that the hard way years ago, and he wasn't about to forget the lesson now when it mattered most. I don't know if his calmness came from hard-earned wisdom or from some biological quirk that kept his cortisol in check. Maybe it was both. Maybe after nearly 4 decades of teaching teenagers, nothing could faze him anymore. But I know that his presence in that room changed something in how I approach my own stressful moments. I still work nights. I still see patients in crisis, families falling apart in waiting rooms, codes that don't end the way we want them to. But sometimes, when the monitors are alarming and the tension is climbing, I think about Desmond asking if Francine had a comfortable chair. And I remember that even in the worst moments, there's room for grace.